Hey everybody, so here we are. It is day 4 of our Nova Scotia vlog experience. Today is going to be our last day here in Nova Scotia. We're heading back to St. John tonight, but before that, we're actually going to head back towards Digby and then go past Digby. We're going to Annapolis Royal and then on to Port Lorne and then back to Digby to catch that boat. So we're heading up that way because my girlfriend, we've done some genealogy research and we found relatives that had lived in Port Lorne for something like 200 years. So we're just going there. Never been there. I've never been there. She's never been there. So we're gonna see what we can find there. And also there's a lot of very interesting history in Port Royal, and there's a fort that we're gonna go and look at and show you guys all around, kind of talk about the history of that place. So let's go. Here we are. We made it to Annapolis Royal. We're right at Fort Anne, which is the most fought over fort in all of North America. This fort here changed hands 7 times in its history and had many more battles than that leading up to those change of hands. So it would change due to either the fort being taken over or from treaties. So you'd have, you know, the British would come in, they would take this fort over, and then they would have to give it up to the French again, because in England that war would end and they would just give it up, and then a few years later they would have to try to take it again. And same thing goes for the French. The French would always come back in and try to take it back from the British. The construction of the fort, if you look on Google Maps and stuff, it is shaped like a star. So it's one of those, you know, classic star-shaped forts. And it's here right at the end of the Annapolis Basin. So we're gonna go over there. I'll show you what I mean, but just take a look at this. So you have all this earthworks, the ramparts coming up. So it's very hard to assault a star-shaped fort like this because every angle is protected. But yeah, pretty amazing. So that's why, you know, it's been changed hands 7 times, but there was many more battles than that. They weren't always successful. Right over here, this is one of the old cemeteries, and you can see it's basically built at the fort. This cemetery is also reported to be haunted. And it looks like it's haunted. Another way to kind of gauge the age of the fortifications, you see how large this tree is, and obviously that tree wasn't there when they would have had the fort, when the fort was active, because all this would have been cleared off to give you a clear eye line of sight. It's a huge tree. And also you can imagine when the fort was active, these hills that you see here, the fortifications, they would have been a lot steeper. So you can imagine trying, like, you know, you get past the first line of fences, you have to go down to this ditch, then back up a gradient like this. And even today, the gradient is really extreme. So here's a little bit of information just telling us that all of the cannons here are not original, and the different markings. King George is 2nd or 3rd, and VR for Queen Victoria. That's something I like doing, is coming over and looking at those type of marks on these cannons. King George. And yeah, the smooth bore. So they never repurposed these, putting in that rifled sleeve, the carriage. Oh look, people carved their initials in this, into the paint. 1987. This right here is interesting because it's a French cannon. What does it have? Those are supposed to be dolphins, I think. Yeah, a lot of really nice artwork on this. 6017. That should be the weight, I believe, and the caliber. Trying to find a date. Look at this. That's a nice. The face.
The last handover was when it became Canada in 1883. And then this was also the first National Historic Site in 1917.
And there we go, that's the star shape. So we came in through this cemetery and now we're over here. But yeah, you see that star pattern that we were talking about. And now we're gonna go over and look at the powder magazine. This here is called the Black Hole, or this is the powder magazine. The French built a dark cavern here in 1702 as a place to store gunpowder. It lacked the ventilation needed to keep gunpowder dry. Soggy gunpowder is not much use. They replaced this cavern in 1708 with a dry powder magazine across the way. The cavern also provided shelter for women and children during attacks of the 18th century and was used briefly as a prison or black hole. All right, let's go down here. Oh, my eyes are not adjusted to being in here. There's another passage back there. Oh no, that must be for ventilation. All right, so you guys can see and I can see. Oh, look at how wet the wood is. Or I mean, how wet those rocks are in support. Anything up there? Yeah, that's a ventilation. So what's interesting about this place, it's the most fought over fort, therefore, you probably think that there must be a couple of ghosts hanging around. But we haven't seen anything yet, so we'll have to review the footage. Maybe there was someone down here when we got down here. I couldn't see anything, anyway. Right here, that's that ventilation tunnel that we were just looking up, or ventilation shaft we just looked up. And over here, that's the Annapolis Basin, and we are at the end of it. So here's Annapolis Royal, the town. Out there, you see that there's a ship, or there's a fishing boat coming in. Right behind it, there's an island. And that island is where the French came to settle after they failed to settle over at St. Croix Island, or St. Croix Island, which is on the border with the state of Maine and New Brunswick. So they went there. That was the first place that they tried to build a habitation. It failed. They then came across the bay to here, and then they decided to build again on another island. And then from there, they went on to the mainland, which is where Port Royal is. And that's also a historic site, but we won't have time to go visit that today. But you can understand the direction of this. This is why they wanted that powder magazine here, because if you're getting shot at from ship artillery, you want the cannonballs to fly over top, or they're going to hit into this bank. So that would be the best place to be protected. If it was over on this side, the cannonballs might accidentally hit, and if you have a hot cannonball hit the powder magazine, it's going to explode. So now this building here, small sturdy building, is the only surviving building from the French period. Built to last, it replaced a black hole which was too damp for storing gunpowder and munitions. There are several ventilation features that keep powder drier here than in the old magazine. While the old one was built into the damp earth, this one is elevated and was a passageway that circulates air around it. There are also several vents that brought in air and kept out sparks or flames which could have ignited the whole supply. So yeah, so you can see how much of ruin it was in before the Park Service took over, and they rebuilt parts of it. Similar to Fortress Louisburg, I'd say. 1708. Some ventilation tunnel. Oh yeah, I can feel, you can feel the air. HW, that's probably really old. Just the way that it's written. Oh wow, yeah, there's a ton of initials in here. And there, we got the rum. So that's the most important thing in here, you know, the rum. Wow, look at this door too. Everyone's signing their names. They see an old piece of wood and they want to carve their initials in it. There we go, more ventilation. All this brick is new though. Oh, that's really cool. Down there at Port Royal, that's where they believe the first introduction of apples into North America, or into Canada, occurred. And that this place here, Annapolis Royal, which is named after Queen Anne, was the capital of Acadia, and then was the capital of all of Nova Scotia for about 150 years, up until the founding of Halifax. Here's another French mortar. I like the French cannons and mortars because they early 18th century, it says. Yeah, they put a lot of work into making it look good. But you imagine, you know, the cannon's gonna shoot like this, the mortar is to lob over the walls. And there's the French coming in and meeting the natives. And yeah, that down there looks like maybe they're doing the reconstruction. That could have been the original wharf that they would have had here. So that's how, you know, the ships would have come in and tied up, and then you would have had the route right into the main part of the fort. But I'm sure that it would have looked a little bit different. They would have had to have some kind of defensive structure there, and either a gate or a drawbridge. Got some Teslas charging up.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
From New Brunswick too.
Electric vehicle.
Just a quick look at some of the houses here that you see in Annapolis Royal. They're really beautiful. Old houses, lots of history in this town. Really nice architecture in their buildings. So there's the Annapolis River.
Continue on route.
And we see that the tide is coming up right now. So you see it flowing inland, where the ocean is over to the left. Right here, there's that used to be dammed off, and right here they had a tidal generating turbine, which I believe was the only tidal generating turbine in all of Canada, if not North America. Now it's actually closed down. It costs too much to actually maintain it. So, and also it was just really bad for the environment. So that is the way to the open ocean, and over there is into the river system. And when they used to have it dammed off, migratory fish, it just really messed them up, because the way that the turbine would work is you let the water come in with the high tide, you close those gates, and then you let the ocean water drop. Then on this side the water's higher, then you open up at the turbine and you let that water out and it spins. They actually, in this basin, they had a whale get stuck in there one time. So a whale came through those dam gates, it got into that basin there and it was stuck. So, and they've also had issues with salmon, striped bass, all these ecological things that they did not prepare for when they built the dam. So right here in front of us, this is called the Annapolis Valley. So we have this set of hills here, and over on this side here is called the North Mountain. This is the best place in all of Nova Scotia for farming, and it actually has its own microclimate here. It doesn't get those extreme cold winters compared to, you know, other parts in the province. And yeah, just the way that the geology worked here, the basin here is just optimum for farming. So when you get down here in this valley, you know, it stays warmer, and they just grow all kinds of crops. And for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years, people have been here farming these properties. So that there is still the Annapolis River, which is one of the historic places where striped bass used to spawn, but now that population was completely decimated because of the construction of that tidal generating station. We have heard reports that there are striped bass, like people are still catching striped bass there. We just don't know if it's a distinct population, unique from the ones that are coming up from the United States. So that would be an interesting thing to go and discover. And all it takes is some research. Someone just has to go there, collect the eggs, and check the genetics of the eggs to see if it actually is the remnants of that distinct population. If you guys like this area of Nova Scotia and you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, there was a book that we had to read in school called The Mountain in the Valley, and it was by Ernest Buckler. So if you're interested, I would suggest giving that book a read. It's pretty interesting. It's about a guy who grew up here, and then you have to see if he ever actually leaves the valley or not. I don't want to ruin the book for you, but yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed reading it as a kid. So now we're going to be heading over top of the North Mountain to the other side, because that's where Port Lorne is on the Bay of Fundy. And then you can see all the way down there, you have the mountain, and then all the way going that way. And look at that, Hampton Mountain Road. Try not to get hit by anything. Okay, going left.
Up again.
Up here, I think there's going to be an overlook, so we should be able to look down into the Annapolis Valley. So we found an overlook, looking at, you know, the Annapolis Valley. We can see, you know, 180-degree view from here. So that set of mountains there is called the South Mountain, obviously, because this is the North Mountain, and that's what forms the Annapolis Valley, because you have the Annapolis River, which has etched its way in between them. But it goes from over here near Kentville. So there's Cape Split all the way down to Briar Island, where we were at. So this here, the Annapolis Valley, goes to here, Digby Basin, the Digby Gut, and into the Bay of Fundy. And now I'm gonna try to get us some cool drone shots. And away we go. Oh.